If gifted and talented programs were truly like Stranger Things, then I have a lead on who Papa might be, or at least a very influential physician behind the experiments. This person has become somewhat of a public figure and has worked very closely with these fine people behind me, so I just want to take a second to say that I love my family, I love my life, I have no intentions of doing anything to myself or others, and lastly, thank you, Beyonce. This information is coming from a whistleblower who reached out to me privately after one of my videos triggered panic attacks and a flashback of memories to their time in the GATE program. But the crazy part is that the video that triggered the flashbacks was not about the GATE program. Not only do they remember some of the more popular GATE activities like the psychic flashcard test or this constant frequency hearing test, but starting in kindergarten, they remember a male physician coming into their classroom once or twice a month to assess their progress in the GATE program. And this man would do things like take their blood, administer vaccinations, and even put them in a sensory deprivation tank. During this time period, they even have a specific memory of astral projecting to a local area suspected of containing a secret military base where they witnessed UFOs and technology that they now know would not be available to the public for decades. These memories were triggered by a completely unrelated video that I made about this man right here, Dr. Stephen Greer, who, if you don't know, is one of the most prominent voices right now in the UFO disclosure community, and who the whistleblower claims was the physician behind their experimentation within the GATE program. This is a picture of Dr. Greer around the same time he allegedly would have been involved in these experiments, and I am hoping that one other person out there will see a picture of him and have other memories triggered of what was done to them in the gifted and talented programs, because as with every other aspect of this topic, it is proving incredibly difficult to research and find concrete evidence of. I literally never ask this, but please share this video with anybody you know who went through the gifted and talented programs, and specifically in the northwestern region of the United States, as this is where the whistleblower claims they met Dr. Stephen Greer. If you have any information about this topic, share it down below, and if it's private or sensitive, my DMs are open. If you were involved as a child in what I will now be referring to as the FENCE program, or more specifically the entrance to the fence, then you need to hear what I just heard, and I also need your help. There's a ton of speculation about what this FENCE program was actually used for, and one of the things that always comes up in this conversation is Project Stargate, which was the official program designed to train remote viewers for espionage. Up until right now, that link has only been speculation, but someone just came forward with their story that makes the direct connection. This person started in the FENCE program in kindergarten, and one of the things that they remember being made to do was remote view, and the crazy part comes in when one of their predictions came true. This child was able to see an event in the future in full detail of a catastrophic space shuttle mission, and not that long afterwards, we had the Challenger explosion. Immediately after this prediction came true, this child had several meetings with a man whose name I will cryptically put up here, and if you are able to decrypt that name and Google it, you will realize that he was deeply involved in Project Stargate. This person states that the man initially presented himself as a civilian and then later as a doctor, there to guide him with his remote viewing process. And on the final meeting, this man stated that he could no longer help him in any capacity, but the entire time he was followed by an official escort. As with everything else in this FENCE program rabbit hole, this is completely anecdotal, and I need your help to get this out there to as many people who also remember being in this program, to see if they can also identify this man and make further connections between FENCE program and the Stargate program. They are finally talking about gifted and talented education being connected to psychic research, and if you were in the program, you need to watch this clip. For context, this is an interview with a whistleblower who claims that he was part of some secret military operation to recover a craft of non-human origin, and then they start talking about this.
You know now, don't you, that the US Air Force has been secretly testing people through the GATE program for certain psychic abilities?
Yes.
Were you tested?
Yes.
Do you think that might have played a part in what happened to you that night when you were recovering that craft?
Yeah, and I don't know that the Air Force realized that. I'll tell you, I know others that I've come to meet through the program that we'll talk about that were in a psionic program that have a very similar backstory, but for whatever reason, I was not used in that way. Again, my creativity and intuition resulted in, as I've shared with you before, being used for creative war games, being very creative in war games. But what I used as intuition, if we make a spectrum and we put intuition on the conservative side, let's say the right side of the scale, on the more far out side, that might be something that looks a lot like telepathy or telekinesis. And we call this psionics, which we can talk about. And so I knew I was intuitive, I knew I was creative, and I also know I had good imagination. And so looking back, it was clear that becoming a red team expert, those are the tools that I would deploy. My intuition and creativity is what made me successful in that capacity. I don't know if you could go as far as to say as the Big Blue Air Force and the Big Black Department of Defense knows what they're doing, and they're prospecting for these kids at a level, and they're planning this long-term, well thought out path. But what you will find is that we end up making our way there.
You can find the entire interview on the News Nation channel right now, but I am so blown away that people are actually talking about this in a public setting, and I am so curious what those of us who went through the program have to say about this. Gifted and talented education, art student girlfriends, and the two buildings that went... I'm going to be real careful with this one so I finally don't get deleted, but hopefully that clue helps. One of the craziest things about the GATE program is this list of commonalities that so many of us seem to share, like weird eye colors, bumps on the back of our head, Rh negative blood types, but there is one that I have not yet talked about on this platform, and that is the art student girlfriend. For whatever reason, one of the common factors that a lot of people share who went through this GATE program is having an art student girlfriend, and not just any girlfriend, a traveling one, traveling specifically from the middle of the map. What's crazier is GATE students were not the only one to experience this. Apparently, our government officials also were involved with these traveling girlfriends, to the point where it was uncovered that they were involved in a spy ring trying to access sensitive government buildings. Now, these art student girlfriends happened to be very crafty, and some reports came in that they could potentially be involved with military intelligence from the middle of the map, or even the Explosives Ordnance Unit. Reports of this came from more than 40 US cities and continued throughout the first 6 months of 2001, which I am sure is just a random date, and they were observed diagramming secret federal buildings. And I'm sure we all recognize this now famous photo, but have you ever watched the entire video of the time in the classroom and pay specific attention to the list of words that the children were made to chant over and over again? And I want to be very clear, I cannot confirm what I am about to say next, but there are rumors that this specific classroom being visited were very gifted. But this is all just a fun little story that I made up. None of it is true. Please let me keep my account.